really nice to meet you. I know we've spoken a little bit, but it's nice to kind of see each other virtually and get to do this. I'm Zoe and Dystrophy Diaries podcast. I really kind of created this about a year ago as a bit of a passion project. Um, just because I have muscular dystrophy and cardiomyopathy, and I'd never really found resources kind of online, to listen to or hear other people's experiences. So I wanted to try and create that for other people and try and raise awareness, but also help people not feel so alone on their journey. And I came across your account and really kind of resonated with a lot of your content. So I really wanted to learn more about you and your story.
Wow, well, no, that means a lot. And I'm not gonna lie, I did obviously my stalking and been listening to like your episodes, and it's amazing. You've only been running it for a year, like, what, like great content and like how many episodes you have out. And yeah, I think there's definitely synergy because we started our, account that's now also a nonprofit because we wanted, those resources that were more patient focused, coming from patients, talking about it, about, all the things of life, right? Like not just medications, but like, hey, what does it look like being a young person with this? And there's so much like needful. And I think that's the beautiful thing about social media and YouTube and these platforms, that finally the patients get to be able to tell our own stories and be able to offer that support for other patients. So it's amazing what you're doing with this podcast.
Thank you. That's really kind of you to say, and it's amazing what you're doing. I mean, as you say, you've turned it into a non-profit, which is not an easy thing to do, but it's an incredibly like helpful thing for other people. So, what kind of inspired you to start that, really, the non-profit?
Like the reason we really started like to become a nonprofit was because it's like HeartCharged, our, account in nonprofit is run by me and my sister, older sister. We both have the same cardiomyopathy, hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. Um, and so we really made it a nonprofit to give us a little more legitimacy as two young girls, who were running originally an Instagram account to help patients. So it was more to be like, hey, this can kind of give us more, open more doors for us. And it definitely has, of being able to, sit at the table with other organizations, in the cardiomyopathy space, to be able to try and work with hospitals and give more things and be able to get more grants to be able to really help more patients than just using, social media.
Mm-hmm.
So it came out of that, but people
Yeah.
kept saying like, oh, you should become, and like you said, it's not an easy, thing
No.
to do. And we definitely, like, I have a degree in film and my sister's a degree in dance, so we definitely
Wow.
didn't have like the learning of running a nonprofit. And me and her, and then our lovely mom, it's pretty much us three that run everything from like
Oh.
making the content to answering emails to applying for the grants. Like it's pretty much just us three doing every little bit of it. So we
Wow.
completely understand when you say passion project, where you're like, yes, if we didn't have passion,
Yeah.
like to really want to change and save lives and be able to change the statistics of, how many people go undiagnosed with a cardiomyopathy, and how it is, it's a scary thing, but it's the reality that like with, cardiomyopathy, it is life or death. Like the
Mm-hmm.
simple thing of not getting the right treatment at the right time, of like not knowing it. And we, saw that in our own journey of how we were even dismissed by our pediatrician, showing, signs, showing family history.
Mm-hmm.
So it really, I think the foundation for our organization, because it was founded in like our advocacy, that when we were first diagnosed and looking online and seeing that people our age did have it, but unfortunately they had died, and seeing so many of the headlines of just being like, this person dropped dead playing this sport. Oh, come to find out they had an undiagnosed heart condition, mainly like our cardiomyopathy. And that
Mm-hmm.
just really like, it hit you to think, wow, this is a condition that could take your life. And like, I just celebrated my didn't die day of 10 years of going into cardiac arrest in my sleep. because my ICD saved my life. So if I didn't get the diagnosis in that, so it's really a place of gratitude. Like I don't want to think like survivor's regret. Like I don't know how I got fortunate to still be here. So
Mm-hmm.
it's more like let me look at like the gratitude of I feel so fortunate to still be here. So how do I make my life count to bring more people and more survivors? So that really was like our ultimate goal of like, hey, like we need to kind of change the awareness and like the image when people think heart disease. It's
Mm-hmm.
not like an old man's disease, you know? It's like,
No.
hey,
Yeah.
young people have it. They can be born with it. Sometimes it can show later in their life. Like there's so much to do it. And I think even in the cardiomyopathy space, like people don't even know what a
Yeah.
cardiomyopathy is. So like that's where we realized there's so much need on social media to just bring awareness to the general public because so many
Mm-hmm.
people are being, undiagnosed and not knowing it. So it's like, how do I take something scary like, a life-threatening condition and make it seem digestible and not as scary? And I think that's where the beauty of like what you're doing and what we're doing is we're showing the complexities, but we're showing that we still have a life, that it didn't
Mm-hmm.
end with this diagnosis, that you can still live a pretty good, full life with this, instead of like when you read scary things on the internet that are more clinical, where they're like, the first sign
Mm-hmm.
of this is death. And you're like, okay, wait, what? What do you
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Not
yeah, like, wait,
helpful.
yeah, not helpful one bit at all.
No.
Yeah.
That kind of brings me to like my big question, really, which is how does it feel being a young person with this condition? Because I know I've got my thoughts and feelings, but I'm quite interested to hear how you find it.
Because I was diagnosed when I was 14 and I
Mhm.
had just started high school here in America. And so that was right. Like you're a young person thinking, oh, I could have this whole life ahead of me. And now you get told you have this condition. We're surprised you haven't dropped dead yet. Everything that you enjoy doing, like sports and dance, you need to stop. So even those crazy dreams I had of thinking like, oh, maybe I could pursue this, they're pretty much like, no, like you need to like sit down, do it. The lazy person in me was like, okay, cool, I can watch all the movies and TVs. I didn't because my life was consumed by, extracurricular. But then it was like, wait, like, yeah, where is that hope? Where are other people like me? And I think the hardest part of navigating it as a young person, and even now as like a young adult, is like it's not visible.
Mhm.
So there's so much of like, but you don't look sick. And like even having doctors like, oh no, like you look fine. Like, yeah, I know I look fine, but like there is some tells of it of like, oh, like that was hardest to be like people didn't understand, oh, you just stopped dancing, or oh, hey, why can't you go to this trampoline park, or like different things, because it's like I'm not coming to you with a broken leg, like an injury, or like, hey, look, like I broke my leg, that's why I can't dance anymore. They're like, but like 2 days ago you were just dancing, and now because some doctor said. And I like I actually just shot a short film that kind of talks about the social aspect of like a young girl, that's like semi-biographical, with mine and my sister's story, to kind
Mhm.
of hopefully give understanding to the general people of like, you don't always need to understand, because like I don't fully understand my condition, I'm still learning things about it. And so I'm just asking for grace that like i I don't know, my doctor just told me I have this thing and I'm still grappling with it. So yes, I know you're not understanding it, but like me too, I'm still figuring out. And what I want is just somebody there to support, because you do lose friends, you do lose people in your life, and it's kind of hard because you're like, oh, there's something wrong with me. And now
Mhm.
I'm seeing people react to that and choosing, oh, not to be. Or like, I was like trying to go to like different, like a church camp, and they're like, ugh, you're like a liability. Like, I think you should just stay home. Like, don't even come to the
Oh
camp, because they
God.
didn't want to, work on making accommodations or filling it. And I feel like that's the worst thing for a young person, because you're like, I'm supposed to, right? Like, feel like I have a place here. Like,
Yeah.
and now you're making me feel from, outside forces that, wow, my life is ending because of this. Like my social, like the things that you don't think comes with a diagnosis, I think are the more harder parts, because people don't talk about it or aren't set up to like, you know, accommodate people because they just want to
Mm,
look at you and be like, well, you're too young to have a heart condition. Like, what do you mean too young? Like newborns, like you can find out you have a heart condition like in the womb. Like, I don't know
yeah,
what. Yeah. Or like certain, like, it's like they can accept babies, but then like, and they can accept like 40 and above, but somewhere in the middle, they're like,
there's just like a
no.
grey area. No,
Yeah.
absolutely. I think for me, I was diagnosed around like fifth. Well, technically when I was like 12, but my parents didn't tell me like all of it until I was about 16 because I think they didn't want to scare me, to be honest. And then I, for a long time, was really like unwell with other things, and so I didn't find it very scary because I was just like, well, I'm in hospital anyway, it doesn't really matter. But I think over the last, I'd say, year or so, I've found that I've struggled a bit more with feeling a bit anxious when I'm on my own and I get symptoms. And I think it's so easy for medical people or whoever to say, oh, well, it's fine. Like, I know it doesn't feel nice in the moment, but you're okay. But in that moment, when you're on your own and your heart is going like five to the dozen or jumping everywhere or, you don't feel well, it is scary. Like, it's not an easy thing to kind of just get over and tell yourself, oh, well, it's fine. And I think it can be really hard for people to understand that if they don't experience it. But I also am at a point in my life where, I don't want to live every day in fear or, I don't want it to rule me. And I think it's an ongoing battle, isn't it, of trying to just accept what it is, but also live life and not let it rule you.
Oh, absolutely. And I definitely feel with like the anxiety, and there's so much need for also just like mental health help
Mm-hmm.
and getting a diagnosis and seeing
Yeah.
somebody and talking about that and how that, because like first of all, it's like normal to have anxiety about certain things, right? Like, oh, I'm getting anxious about this, but then you're like, but then I have a cardiomyopathy that makes my heart beat faster. So then am I feeling anxious, but then I'm getting double anxious because I'm like,
Oh my
wait, am I
god,
gonna
it's a
have,
cycle.
yeah, like an event right now, so I'm like
Yeah.
adding on top of it and stuff. So like it definitely does because like, and it's weird because I feel like the one thing really for me, like it definitely matured me in a way knowing this and also like sitting with
Yeah.
my mortality at such a young age. Like I'm like, oh yeah, I could have been dead this day. Like for me, so it's weird because like for me to, right, you said like I don't want this to rule my life. And in the beginning I felt like so on eggshells because they pretty much scared me into just like doing
Yeah.
this. And you're like, okay, so then I got my ICD, and then it's like, wait, this condition would have killed you, and you're like, oh, okay, like that's a lot. I haven't even become an adult yet. Like, I'm sitting with this, I'm trying to understand this and like go with it. But like when I'm experiencing like episodes of like irregular heartbeats or tachycardia, and I feel
Mm-hmm.
like I love when I go to my doctors and they're like, well, what did you feel? I'm like, I felt like I was gonna die. And they're like scoff, like as if that's dramatic. I'm like, have you ever experienced tachycardia? Because I think you would, because everyone who I talk to is like, right, you're just closing in, like that.
Yeah.
I have to weirdly like, I'm more of a pessimistic now of like, if this is it, this is it.
It
Like
does
I
it,
come
yeah.
to, like, which is, yes, so that's how I cope. Not everyone's like that, but like sometimes you're like, here's what I can control. And what I found in my own journey is that it's not as controllable as sometimes doctors want to say it
Yeah.
is. Like, I've had episodes where I'm just sitting watching a boring movie, and I've
Yeah.
had episodes where I'm, playing, like, maybe being a little bit more physically active. So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
I can't, right, like, sit in fear and not live my life. But I
No.
also, then I'm like, but I'm my best, help because I know, okay, let me not push it, let me not do it. But then I sit like, okay, I might have, this tachycardia episode, but I'm not going to be like, oh, well, I had it doing all these things. Like, then I would not be living my life if I cut out everything, I was doing when
No.
I had my heartbeat off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, like you, I mean, the only way we can look at it really is whatever happens, happens. Like, it's such an unpredictable condition, and I think it's one of them where we can't change it. And for me, I think a lot of the anxiety has never been about dying. Like, I'm not scared of just but it was, I had a scary episode about a year ago where I was on my own and I was ringing like family and that, and nobody could answer, and I had to ring an ambulance on my own. And I think that was the first time I'd had that on my own. And so I think for me, it's not about dying, it's about dying alone. That I think is where that anxiety kind of came from. Because when I'm with people and I get symptoms, I don't even mention it. I don't even say to them, like, oh, I've got a funny beat now, unless it's like really, really significant. Because I just think, well, whatever. But the minute I'm on my own is where it stems from. And I think a lot of the reasons why I wanted to do an episode like this is to try and help other people with these symptoms on their own, try and find a way of managing through that. I think, because I think if I had have listened to an episode like this when I was in the thick of it, I would have just found comfort from knowing there's other people my age that feel exactly this way, and like it's okay. I think sometimes it just feels nice to hear somebody else say how you feel, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah. No, and there's so much also like medical gaslighting and symptoms. And
Mhm.
so like it is very nice to just be like, I just need some, like, I'm not looking for answers, I'm not looking for, like a solution, because right, like I understand like, hey, yes, there's better drugs coming out and there's like a lot of exciting things happening, but just to know like you're not crazy, you're not alone,
Yeah.
like how powerful that is in the patient journey. Because it's like, that's why like I felt blessed to have my sister, even though our conditions, though it's genetic, it presents completely different, but we do obviously have overlapping things. So it's
Mhm.
like, oh, I experienced this first. So then when you tell me, I'm like, oh, no, I completely get it. And like, we'll laugh because that's, how we get through life, even though you're like,
Yeah.
oh, and cry and, have a array of emotions of like, oh, that's not something funny, but we've all got a dark sense of humor now. But like, I get you in a way that, yes, if I were to tell maybe somebody who's heart healthy, they're like, girl, what, like that
Yeah.
sounds scary. But it's just knowing like, hey, those symptoms do. And sometimes I do wish, like, somebody recently asked me like, do you have best tips and tricks when you have, ventricular tachycardia? I'm like,
No.
I don't have a breathing exercise. I really
No.
like clench and be like, am I going? But it is scary, like, because it happens so fast, like your heartbeat can
Yeah.
be off so quickly that, like, I used to get like when I used to faint, well, I still faint, but it's not as
Ugh.
much. But like my mom would be like, "Why didn't you say?" And I'm like, "Because I'm trying to be like come to, and it's hard to
Yeah.
tell people like I'm experiencing this, and then you don't want to worry them because then you're like, are you then gonna like overdo it? Because I've lived so much with my own self that I'm like, okay, I just need to go lay down right now, or hey, I need some water and like
Mhm.
things. So it is like tricky, but there is something just to be said. Like, there's other people going
Yeah.
through that.
Absolutely. I think it's definitely something that I personally have found really comforting, and I want to try and help use my voice and like this podcast to help other people feel that comfort. But I think obviously you have also been using social media kind of for the same reason. And like, how have you found, since you created HeartCharged, like how have you found it? Have you like do you feel you've had a really good reception from people, or have you found struggled to like make people understand your message?
I think we've had, I have to say, very success because we grew it like probably like from nothing. Like, asking at first when we were making it like friends and people were like, hey, please, and like when I was in high school, I did a lot of advocacy and did a lot of presentations. So people knew like, oh, like this is something you're passionate about to do and talk about. And then when we really made it like, hey, let's make a separate account than just our personal ones and sharing stuff, And we've really found a beautiful community that is super engaged, that is always willing to help, whether it's other patients who've been through something similar, or they're always in the comments, being supportive or letting, us know about the struggles that they've been through. And like, people have found us like, as like cheesy as my son, like we've had people find us through a hashtag and it saved their life because they found us and they were gonna get like an implanted defibrillator and they were really worried because they're a young girl and right, you don't usually see
Yeah,
girls in the brochures or like,
yeah.
showing it. So like it's been nice that like that really helped us be like, no, you're on the right path because there were so many patients that we found that needed to know that they weren't alone, that they hadn't met anybody, in their own backyard. And I think that's the beauty of social media, that like we have an international reach and we can help people that may not be able to be reached where they're living, or they just don't know the right resources in their neighborhood and stuff. And so it's been really, supportive. And even like the campaigns, like the awareness campaigns we've done, a lot of people have been like, wow, you opened my eyes to understand like more general public people. And it's been really, great. Not saying that, there's haters out there, people who don't
Mhm.
get it, but I think we've done a really good job about like making it understandable, because I have a lot of people now that will be like, oh, every time I see an AED, an automatic serial defibrillator, I think of you. Or you're like,
Oh,
or like when I'm like when we're doing like maybe a bigger film project, everybody on the crew who may not have a heart thing affected, now they're being educated and they're like, wow, I like you really opened my eyes to this. Or they're like, wait, I think I should go get my heart checked, and do it. And I think because we have enough like variety of things, but we also try to make it like educational but also
mhm.
entertaining, because we know you're not like, we don't want to scare you to nothing, but we want to move you to action of like, wait, I should be understandable. And like, hey, like I can share this piece of content with my family to go get, genetically tested, because it's different coming from you than it is, me as their
Mhm.
family member trying to push
Yeah.
for them. So it's been really cool. And like the lives that we've been able to save and touch is like what really, like we don't make very much money from this, like we, if we get like $50 for dancing, happy dancing, like wow, we could make so much and help patients, like, but like it makes me emotional thinking about like all the people that we've been able to help, because we decided to be like, hey, let's just go and make this account. And like we've heard from people like, I was in the hospital and I found your page and you gave me hope for the first time,
Oh,
like living
wow.
with my condition. And like it's, thank you, because sometimes it is hard. Like when I was doing advocacy before, not on social media, I was like, I don't know where any of this is going, right? And sometimes you're like, does anybody care? And I think that's been the beauty about social media, is that we found people who do care and who's been helped and stuff. And so like that's really like the joy. And even now seeing like young people even younger than we were diagnosed, and their parents reach out and say like, thank you so much, my kids, like have a role model and somebody to look forward to. It's like, oh, that's like, it's full circle, because that's when we went looking what we wanted to find, right? Like somebody who's a little bit farther on the journey that I can see and that I can, touch point, when I'm going through something. Like it is like funny in an interesting way that like sometimes somebody will have like a serious cardiac event and they're like, I went to the doctor, but you're the first person I thought of to call and talk about it with,
Oh
because
my
it,
gosh.
yeah, like we feel, because it's us answering our DMs, it's us, like we don't have like paid employees, it's like pretty much
Yeah.
us doing this 7 days a week, because we care about like being there for people and really offering that patient to patient support. And like, yeah, we'll get on a call 2 hours, like, hey, like we're here to be your friend, because we know it's hard. Like, like sometimes it is hard to talk about certain things, maybe with your parents or your family members or your friends, because it's true, to a certain level they can only understand. But yes, when you find somebody, like the empathy runs deeper, and it's like, hey, I totally get it. Like, yeah, we can laugh about it now. And like I think to create that space where people feel like they can come, and we've even learned so much from our own community of when we've been struggling with something and they've been there to help us. So it's a very like mutualistic relationship, which has been very beautiful, where it's not just us being like, we know everything. Like, no, we're learning from each other and we're here to support
Yeah.
each other because, like, it's hard to stay strong that, much. And, like, we're all still trying to make it. And I think it makes it easier having people along your journey, with you. And,
Mhm.
maybe we're not in person, but we can offer that through virtual, to be
Yeah,
there for them.
absolutely. And I think that's what it's all about, isn't it? It's about helping people, like using our own experiences and our knowledge and our platforms to help other people in the same situations and be that person that really we could have hoped for and looked for when we were at the start of our journeys. And that has always really been the big motivator for me too, as being, the person that I would like to support me. But I think it's so incredible, honestly, the change you've made, the lives you've saved, you and your sister. Like, it's really incredible. And you've used your own struggles and conditions and experiences to do that, which is just really amazing. So you should both feel really proud and accomplished for everything you've done because it really is amazing. And yeah, I find it really inspiring. And honestly, not a lot inspires me very easily. So, what you two have done really does. So honestly, well done. But I think the final question that I wanted to ask you is, what would you like the listeners' take home message to be?
I think one of the things that we always like to share with people is that your life doesn't end with a diagnosis, that
Mm-hmm.
you're not alone. So please, like, our DMs are open if you're not on Instagram. We have our website, getforchurch.org. You can email us. We do have a big amount of followers in the UK, so I will say, like, even though we're not there, we do travel there quite a bit to do amazing collaborations and projects and stuff. But we hope that you come follow us. We're always, open to collaborations. Like, and just know that, like, cardiomyopathies do exist. They do affect young people. If you're having symptoms like, shortness of breath, lightheadedness, fatigue, fainting, irregular heartbeats, whether they're fast or slow, if you have family history, please go and get, at least a simple electrocardiogram testing. Please get your heart checked, to know, because it is a vital organ. So if it's not
Oh,
working, that does mess up a few things. So, please, like, think about that. And it doesn't have to be, those symptoms don't have to be whether you're exercising or not. Those are
yeah.
things you should always mention to your doctor. And if their doctor isn't hearing you, like, go find another one or fight for it. And, like, we can help you fight and find, somebody better who listens, because that is a struggle too when you're young. And sometimes people don't take you seriously or think, like, no, you're just, like, I was told fainting was normal for me. And, like, actually, fainting is
No,
not normal. Like, you should
no,
not be
it's
doing that.
you should not be doing that. No way. Oh my god.
Yeah. Can I ask you what cardiomyopathy you have?
I have what is it, hypertrophic? Is it
Yeah,
hypertrophic?
yeah. Okay, so we have the same cardiomyopathy.
Yeah, so
Okay, nice.
mine is caused by my muscular dystrophy from the lamin gene. I at the moment don't have an ICD because of other complications, but I probably will need one. I'm kind of a bit borderline at the minute. I take beta blockers. Um, I have an automatic defibrillator at home, so
Oh,
not
okay.
not an internal one. But yeah, probably in the few coming years, I will need one of them. It's a shame because they probably would have put one in sooner, but because of other complications with my health, they were like, oh, it's a little bit. You have to pick one or the other, and I was like, oh, okay. But
Well, let us know if you get an ICD, then you join our Bionic Babe club,
oh my
So,
god, I'd
if you have
love
any
to.
questions. Yeah. No, but I mean, like,
Absolutely.
technically with your AED having around, you're, like, pretty much almost there as,
Almost, yeah,
bionic.
almost.
Yeah.
An
No, but
honorary
that's
member.
no, yeah. No, because I find it so interesting, like, because, like, when you think of dystrophy, like, it's like taking off, and then when you think of hypertrophic, it's like too much muscle. So it's
Yeah,
like, yeah, like, where, yeah, your body's, compensating and all that. Okay, so you're a thick chick like no, I say thick chick and then we're both slim, so it makes people, you know, like my heart is thick. My heart is thick. That's where it is. Yeah.
Oh my god, I love
Big-hearted.
that.
Yeah, the big-hearted community here. Yeah.
I love that. Oh my gosh. Well, honestly, I have loved like meeting you properly and getting to do this episode. And you said you come to the UK a lot, so please, like, do let me know when you're next up here, and if we can do something, if we can hang out, have a coffee, whatever. Like, just let me know. Like, I'll make it work definitely.
Okay, no, yeah, definitely. No, I'll let you know. Because I think we're looking at like March actually, so I'll let you know and we see. Because I know we'd love to meet up. You've been such a delight. It's so nice to like, chat with you, love what you're doing. And then I'm like, yeah, and especially with the same hard thing, like even if we didn't, like we definitely, we love to collaborate. So if there's some way too, we want to do something on social media or something, we would always be, game for that as well.
Oh my gosh, I'd love to do that. I'd love to do a little something, definitely like a little project. We could have a little brainstorm and see what we'd like to do. Definitely raise awareness, especially now I know we've got the same type of cardiomyopathy. Like, absolutely. I'll have a
Oh
little think,
yeah.
and if you think of anything, like, just let me know. I'm always up for ideas.
No, absolutely. No, and then also knowing like the element, like all your things too, and seeing if there is something that, I mean, there's definitely a lot of crossover, but then also just makes me think like, hey, if there is like, there's also like a lot of pharma companies right now that are doing amazing work in our space, in our things that like, hey, is there something that like even what we love to be like, funded, a great funded project. That's always the perk. Even though we're very open to just doing no, like it doesn't have to
Yeah.
have money and we just do something fun, but like I think we're doing stuff in this space that would be cool to see how there could be, overlap. And I think people forget, right? Like, and I think that's what I like that your page is like, you don't just focus, like I think people can get so fixated, like sometimes I forget about my other, like, hey, I should be going to see a gynecologist and seeing other things, but I get so fixated on my one condition, like it's so
Mm,
overwhelming for this, I'm seeing like three doctors just for this problem, that like I think it's nice that you are bringing like, hey, like people with this can have a cardiomyopathy, and bringing like, I think there's so much need for crossover in these different, like
yeah.
whether it's rare disease, the cardiomyopathy space, the disability space, that there's so much overlap. And I think when we can all come together, we can make more things happen than working in these silos. Because like as scientists are figuring out like, oh wow, a lot of the stuff with like muscular things, oh, actually help a
Mhm.
lot with our condition, because things like that. So I think in just the patient realm, it's always nice to find this overlap, to be able to have
Oh
more
gosh,
people feel
yeah.
seen, understood. Yeah.
Absolutely, definitely. The more voices, the better, and the more rooms that we can get in and in front of people, the more good we're going to do and help people. Absolutely. So yes, working together, I think, is the way forward for everybody in this space and raising awareness. Well, I will let you go, and I will edit this video, and obviously, as soon as I put it up, I'll tag you in and.
No, thank you so much for reaching out and, letting me come on your space and share, our story. So I really means a lot, and I'm so glad we like made it work, and I'm
Me
very
too.
happy. And this is like the start of, more stuff
Yeah,
hopefully down the lines. But yeah, it's been a pleasure. I know I could chit chat with you for
thank
so
you.
much longer, but so thank you.